experience watching Guns N' Roses live?
You mean actually seeing Guns N' Roses?
Uh-huh.
Well, I got a chance to see him twice, and the first time, uh, my girlfriend at that time was a huge Guns N' Roses fan, and I had an opportunity to get some tickets to go see them, and I really, wasn't paying that much attention to them at that time because when you're doing original material, you're kind of more focused on what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it was in the late '80s. No, actually, it was the early '90s, and it was the early '90s, and I was still kind of focused on, what I was doing with the original band that I was, playing in, and so I wasn't as focused on other bands, but she really, really loved that band, and so I got a chance to get the tickets, and we went to the concert, and I really didn't have high expectations, and they kicked my behind. They absolutely were on fire. And the opening band was Skid Row. And Skid Row opened with Slave to the Grind, which was just the perfect song to start the show with. So they were absolutely amazing. But when Guns N' Roses hit the stage, they just were on fire. Duff's bass tone was very memorable for me because that's a big part of their signature sound is his bass tone.
Yeah.
And that roto sound, or the round wound bass string sound, is a big part of his sound, and it really came through. And I remember it wasn't a real big hit, but a memorable song that they played that night was Locomotive. And I just really enjoyed that because, see, back in the 80s, I wasn't a singer. Back in the 80s, I was a bass player. Played bass very successfully for many, many, many years, and was very proficient at it. And so, of course, as a musician during that time, I was much more focused on things like that, the bass tone. But they were amazing. And then the second time I got a chance to see Guns N' Roses was kind of when they were running through troubled time. There were, not, you could kind of pick up the energy coming on the stage that they weren't getting along at that time, and it, no matter how someone tries to hide it or whatever, it still does kind of come through.
Yeah.
And that show just didn't have the fire that the first show I had seen them, and it had a different flavor to it because the first time I saw them, they were a rock band. It was basically a five-piece band, or a 5-member band with a piano player. But then when I went and saw them, it was like they were a 5-member band with a backup band. They had a horn section. They had, the harmonica player. They had this. They had, backup singers, and it just had a completely different vibe that just didn't seem as much like a rock band. And I've noticed that the more popular videos, when you're looking at older footage of Guns N' Roses, was more of the band when it was more like they were a 5-member rock band. It just seems to be where most people really enjoy what they were doing. And Of course, the real soft spot for most Guns N' Roses is all five of the original members. When Steven Adler was playing in the band and Izzy was playing in the band, that is the biggest soft spot for people that really enjoy Guns N' Roses. And I think to this day, the most popular video of Guns N' Roses is live at the Ritz. Back in 1988 when they were really hungry, and that's they just that whole F the world. We're gonna be the way we are, and if you don't like it, tough. That really kind of came through in Live at the Ritz back in 1988. Those seem to be the most watched videos, and the original band, with Steven Adler and Izzy. The five original. That's what we try to represent. And we try to exhibit when we're on stage, and really kind of grasp the essence of that type of live performance. We just want to have it's a rock band.
Yeah.
That type of vibe.